Have you ever felt that you are all set to test your code and when you press the button, bam, the browser crashes by complaining with type error, cannot read the property of undefined. It's quite common. We have all been there. If we lock this in that function, it is the button element, not the counter object. Why does it do that? What's going on? Why does this keyword in JavaScript feels like it is actively trying to betray us? Well, what if I told you it's not random? What if I told you that 70% of all your this confusions can be solved by just learning two simple rules? Welcome to the part 1 of our complete guide to mastering JavaScript this. By end of this one video, that crashing button will make perfect sense. Let's get started. Alright, I want you to throw away all complicated boring textbook definitions. For now, you only need to know two things. One, how regular functions work, and two, how arrow functions work. Rule number 1 is for regular functions, the one you write with the function keyword. I want you to think of regular functions as chameleons. A chameleon's color completely depends on the branch it is sitting on right now. A regular functions, this keyword works exactly the same way. It is dynamic. It depends entirely on how the function is called. Let's prove it. Look at this object. How are we calling say hi? We are calling it on person object. See the dot? The dot is branch our chameleon is sitting on. So what is this inside the function? It is person object. Simple, right? But what happens if we do this? This is a trap. We assign the function to a new variable. Now look at how we are calling it. Is there a dot? Is there an object? No, it is just being called. Our chameleon is sitting on no branch. So what does it do? It defaults to the biggest branch there is, the global window object in the browser. Since we don't have any name property on the window object, we get undefined. If we were in strict mode, this would be undefined, and accessing the name value on undefined would crash immediately. So, rule 1 is a regular function, this is dynamic. It depends on the dot before it, just like chameleons. Okay, that is a chameleon. Rule number 2 is for arrow functions. I want you to think of arrow functions as photographs. A photograph captures the scene at the moment it was created. It never ever changes. An arrow function does exact the same thing. It does not get its own this. Instead, it remembers this from where it was defined. Now, look at this simple yet a tricky question. You might think this works and locks John, right? But it's a common trap. You might be thinking, say hi is in person. So, this must be person, right? Wrong. Remember, it's a photograph. When was it defined? It was defined as the object was being created in global scope. At that moment of object creation, this was not the person. This was the a window object. The photograph it took was of the window object. So, when you call person.sayHi, what does it log? It logs window.name, which is probably undefined. To prove it, let's change the name property of our window object. Now, if we try to get the name we just added to the window object. Did you get it? I know, this confuses everyone. This is not how you use arrow functions for main object methods. You use them for nested functions. Let me show you the right way. Follow me. We call person.showHobbies. Rule 1 applies here. It's a regular function with a dot. So, inside showHobbies, this is person object. Great. Now, inside showHobbies, we define our arrow function. It takes a photograph. What is the value of current this when the arrow function is being created? It is a person. So, it logs this as person forever. It doesn't care how it is called. It remembers where it was born. That is a superpower. Okay, we have seen two rules. Chameleon versus photograph. How versus where. Let's go back to our crashing button example and see what is really happening. Let's trace it step by step. This dot update value is a regular function, our chameleon. But we are not calling it. We are just giving the function itself to the event listener. Later, when a user clicks, the browser calls our function. And how does it call? Does it call with myComponent.update value? No, it just calls the function it was given. Now, here is the key insight. Event listeners are special. When the browser calls our function, it doesn't just call it with no context. The browser automatically sets this to be the DOM element that triggered the event. See, this is the button element. So, when we try to access this .data.value, we are asking, hey button, what is your data property? And the button says, I don't have a data property. So, accessing the value on undefined crashes. This is actually more confusing than if this was just undefined. At least with undefined, the error is obvious. Here, this exists, but it is wrong object entirely. So, how do we fix it? We need the function to remember this from the myComponent class. We need a photograph. By changing the definition of our method to an arrow function, it is now photograph. Whenever myComponent is created, that arrow function is defined. It looks around and asks, what is this right here? At that time, this is myComponent instance. It takes the photograph. Now, it doesn't matter that browser calls it with no dot. It remembers it's this. You click the button and it just works. So, let's recap. 70% of the time, this is all you need. Regular functions are chameleons. This depends on how it is called. Look for the dot. Arrow functions are photographs. This depends on where it is defined. It remembers. You now understand the core foundation and you can already fix that super common bug. But what happens when you use a for each loop or a set timeout? That is the other place these traps get everyone. Think you have mastered the concept? I have posted few questions on our community tab. The link is right in the description. Go test your knowledge. In the very next video, we are going to dive into the callback trap and I will show you the 3 simple ways to fix it every single time. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss it. You are on your way to finally mastering this. See you in the next one. Until then, happy coding.